Looking to take your financial knowledge to the next level? You're in the right place. Welcome to Ask Ralph, offering accounting, technical, and financial advice. Whether you're looking to save taxes or improve your business, he's got you covered. Here's your host of Ask Ralph, Ralph Eastup Jr.
Hello and welcome back to the Ask Ralph Show as we continue our series on franchising. Today, I want to talk a little bit about franchise or business opportunity before we get into a discussion of pros and cons, just so everyone can understand the difference between a business opportunity and a franchise. Now, as I mentioned in the last few episodes, make sure if you've missed something, you go back to our podcast site and look up, the different parts of this franchising that you may have missed. So here's the key factors when we talk about franchise or business opportunity. Number one, a business opportunity doesn't generally feature the seller's trademark. Buyers operate under his or her own name. Great example of that would be, McDonald's versus McDowell's. I don't know how many people back in the day saw the movie Coming to America with, I think it was, I can't remember who, but Eddie Murphy, I want to say, but maybe I'm wrong on that one. But, there was McDonald's, and then this fella came up with McDowell's. Instead of the Golden Arch, it was the Golden Arcs. Well, that is obviously a business opportunity as compared to the person that buys the McDonald's franchise with the Golden Arches. Business opportunities tend to be less expensive than franchises and generally don't charge ongoing royalty fees. Of course, because there's no mothership. There's no franchisor. There's no one that you're paying, a marketing fee to or anything like that. Business opportunities allow buyers to proceed with no restrictions as to geographic market and operations. Now, that is in direct contrast to the franchisee, which will give, restrictions to the franchisee and also a geographic market. They may sell franchise agreements based on a particular area. It could be a city, could be a county, could be a state. And most business opportunity ventures have no continuing supportive relationship between the seller and the buyer after the initial package is sold. Buyers are on their own. So that's the big difference between, a business opportunity and a franchise. And I wanted to put that out there as we get started on this whole discussion of the pros and cons. So, the pros. The greatest strength of franchising is the ability to bring independent retailers together using a single trademark and business concept. So here's what we're talking about in the benefits. Number one, they would argue there's a reduction of risk because, it's already been done before. You're not out there, blazing this new thing that someone has never tried. A lot of times it's a turnkey operation. They're going to have support services to show you, how to select a site, how to do your, what we call a fit out, how to find the equipment and the products and services you're going to offer. They have a standardization of products and systems. They're going to show you, how to create something. In the Kenny Rogers Roasters chicken model we were talking about, they're going to show you that rotisserie chicken, how to prepare it, how to market that thing. They have standardized financial and accounting systems. A lot of franchises will give you, not going to give you, I shouldn't say it that way, but they're going to provide with you, and I'm sure there's a fee associated with it, a model for doing the accounting and for, the financials of that. You're going to get collective buying power. And we've talked a little bit about like national purchasing. They're going to give you the benefit of, contracts they've developed with companies. If you're in a food services, maybe like a Cisco or a US Foods. And the reason they're able to do that is because they create that relationship, not just for one particular restaurant location, as we're talking about, but for their whole chain of restaurants. So if I'm a supplier of chicken, like in a Kenny Rogers Roasters model, I'm going to really be happy to give a great price to the franchisor of Kenny Rogers Roasters because maybe they're promising me, 200 stores to do business with. There is also supervision and consulting readily available. That home office that we talked about and that support team, that field staff. National and local advertising programs. When you turn on TV and you see a McDonald's ad, that McDonald's ad is helping out the people who own franchises in Delaware, in Texas, in New York, in California, in Ireland, in Russia. So that's that national and local advertising programs. They also have point of sale advertising. There's uniform packaging. When you go from McDonald's in Newark, Delaware to a McDonald's in, Knoxville, Tennessee, the wrapper that they're using for that double cheeseburger is going to be the same. There's uniformity to it. So as the consumer, they know what they're getting. There's ongoing research and development. We talked about this one, in the basics. They're looking at their products. They're looking at new products. I think McDonald's is one of the good ones about that. As they saw a change in people's eating habits, they developed more healthy things. They offer financial assistance. Now, not only is that always just cash, but it may be, they have relationships with companies that may sell or lease equipment, and they're going to help you with that. They're going to help you with site selection. And we talked a little bit about this before. This is a key thing, is the franchisor wants to make sure that you're going into a location where you're going to be successful. The one thing they do not want is for you to go into a location and not be successful, because that's going to reflect on the brand. So they're going to give you that. They're going to give you an operations manual. This is how we do things, and it can be very in-depth. Step 1, you do this. Step 2, you do this. Step 3, you do this. And the whole point of that is they've developed a process. They developed a way of doing something which the franchisee or the franchisor has created, economy in that. They know a good way of doing it. They're also going to give you sales and marketing assistance. That's a big part to this. What are they going to give you as far as sales and marketing assistance? That's important to know. Now, with all of those things said, there are some cons. And there's not a lot, but there's some things you need to consider. Number 1, loss of control. You will not have the ability to bring in other products and services. And I can tell you from personal experience, when my father and his partner had this Kenny Rogers Roasters, it was obvious that, and they looked at Boston Market as an example, it was obvious that they needed to roll out new products. But from my understanding was the franchisor was not willing to embrace new products. And because they had this agreement, the local franchisees couldn't just say, hey, well, we're going to offer a prime rib, or we're going to offer something else, because that would violate the franchise agreement. So that's one of the things, loss of control. A binding contract is another part. This contract is going to state the specific components of what's going on with this deal. And then the biggest con is the franchisor's problems are also your problems. So if you're buying a franchise, don't let wild expectations influence your decision. While franchising is designed to put people into business who have never owned a business before, the excitement of ownership can create an impulse to move forward without proper planning. It's key that you don't rush into buying a franchise and expecting to boost your current working salary, because you need to understand what's going on with this particular franchisor. So let's say the franchisor is not financially well off and they fold. Well, then all of a sudden you've got issues now, because maybe your national advertising is gone. Maybe your national purchasing is gone. And all of a sudden, what they promised you is that product you can't easily replicate for the same price. So all of a sudden now your pricing model is gone. And that really has led to substantial losses on the part of franchisees who didn't do the due diligence to look into the franchisor and say, do they have the financial stability? Do they have the right mix of people? It could be as simple as, do they have the right management staff? So we're going to continue our franchising success series on the next thing, talking about the associated cost of a franchisee or franchise.
You've been listening to Ask Ralph, brought to you by Saggio Accounting Plus. Please subscribe to and rate our podcast on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts, and leave us a rating and review. Our podcast is produced by Carolyn Peters. Thank you for listening, and be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at Ask Ralph Media. You can also hear me each week on 1450 WILM and on 1410 WDOV in Delaware, and on the iHeartRadio app. Submit your questions or ideas for future shows by sending an email to AskRalph@AskRalph.com.
The information contained in this episode of Ask Ralph is based on data available as of the date of its release. Saggio Accounting Plus and Ask Ralph Media Inc. is under no obligation to update this content if changes occur. Applying this information to your specific situation requires careful consideration of all facts and circumstances, and any information provided is not to be considered as financial, tax, or legal advice. Please consult your tax advisor or attorney before acting on any material covered.